Hey friends, it's Jasmine, and I hope that you all are doing well. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I am a witchy content creator here on YouTube and some other platforms as well. So if you would like to follow me elsewhere, check out my links down below. And if you are a returning subscriber, it's good to see you back, and let's get into today's video. So as many of you know, it is currently the Witches Black Lent, which is a sort of internet challenge that has kind of now become a tradition. And we are coming up on the end of the Witches Black Lent. And part of the Black Lent involves working with Dante's Inferno, which is something that I have really enjoyed prior to participating in the Witches Black Lent, but something that I like to take time to revisit every Witches Black Lent. When we're working with the Witches Black Lent, we are working with sort of the concept of the 7 deadly sins. We're working with hellish concepts as well. And we're working with ritual subversion, which is something that I'm very into. And I was watching YouTube, just kind of like scrolling through, when I came across this Dante's Inferno Oracle deck. And as soon as I saw it, I just knew that I had to have it. I think that this will be a really great complementary tool, working with the Witches Black Lent and sort of working my way through Dante's Inferno every year during the Witches Black Lent. So this is the Dante's Inferno Oracle deck, which I will be doing a walkthrough with later in this video. So if you are interested in actually seeing these cards, you can just kind of scroll to the end if you don't want to hear everything else I have to say. That's totally fine, no big deal. I might put like a timestamp or something here if you just want to jump ahead just to look at the cards. But until then, I'm going to rant a little bit and talk about Dante's Inferno. First of all, this deck is a low Scarabeo deck, which all of their decks are absolutely amazing. This one in particular is with Charles Harrington and Paolo Barbari. I don't know if I'm pronouncing those names correctly. Feel free to comment down below. Of course, the original Dante's Inferno is by Dante Alighieri, which was originally published in 1321. Now, I actually didn't realize that Dante's Inferno goes back to 1321 when I was doing my research here and kind of coming up with my notes about presenting this information. I thought that that was really cool. I knew that Dante's Inferno was old, but I didn't know that it was over 700 years old. And in the booklet for this Dante's Inferno Oracle, I believe that they talk about that a little bit as well. However, I'm going to be leaving my notes down in the description, of course. And I will also be posting my notes on Patreon as well. All of my videos and all of my notes for videos go to Patreon first, along with a bunch of other goodies, but that's enough self-promotion for this video. So yeah, that means that the story of Dante's Inferno is
over 700 years old,
which is really cool. Another thing that people may or may not know about Dante's Inferno is that it's actually broken up into 3 separate parts, or I think they're called cantiches, maybe, I'm not really sure. So these divine comedies are broken up into purgatory, hell, and paradise. And just obviously hell is the most popular. Now, the art that is actually in this deck is described as horrific and heartbreaking, which is very much my speed. So I was very interested in this deck, especially after seeing 2 other creators talk about this deck. I'm going to be mentioning them in this video and also linking those videos down below as well. This deck is mentioned to be a shadow work style of deck, and that it holds a mirror up to our human torment and reflects it back upon us, challenging us to grow. I originally purchased this deck in the middle of the Black Lent, like I've mentioned, after watching 2 other creators showcase this deck, and I thought it would be perfect for this season, this time of year. Originally, I watched a video about it on Ellie Lazarit's video, who's here on YouTube. I'll be linking her down below, who also referred to Owl Moon 513's Dante's Inferno video, which I've watched both of these lovely women's Dante's Inferno Oracle deck videos, and they were really, really good. So please go check out their videos. Also a spread listed with this deck that kind of follows the Dante Inferno Gnosis, if you will, and it's a 3-card spread. You have the Inferno, Purgatoro, and Paradiso. So Inferno, like, what is holding you back? The work to be done to liberate yourself. Love that. Purgatorio, the work that needs done in the physical world. And then Paradiso, the higher work of spirit, or sort of spirit's calling, divine calling for you. I think that that's a really cool 3-card spread. I mean, sometimes when you get these Oracle decks, they will include some general spreads, which I think is good for most decks to include, because people from all different experience levels may be purchasing these decks, and so having some suggestions is always good. But I really like it when they take the time to sort of make those spreads specific to the content of the cards, as opposed to like just the traditional Celtic cross or a past, present, future. Now, I will say that I have worked through this entire deck through sort of cataloging it myself in a Google document, which you will find if you look at my notes. And I've essentially taken my time to really journey and travel through the Inferno, which, let me just say, was really, really needed and deep and profound, actually taking the time to work through every card. And this is not something that I've done with other decks in the past, and I think it's a really great way to actually get to know your Oracle deck. And so my method, and what I would suggest if anyone is interested, when you get a new deck, of course, you should cleanse it and get to know your deck, but I would also flip through each card in order that they are listed in the booklet and read about what they say that card sort of means and is associated with, and then write your own sort of notes and gnosis, because Oracle cards, unlike tarot, are really meant to be read and experienced much more intuitively, in my opinion. While as tarot is like kind of a more structured system. So for example, like the High Priestess is never necessarily going to mean the Tower, which is never going to mean the Empress or the Two of Swords. It's a divinatory language. And Oracle, I think, is much more free form. You do have sort of the connotations that might be listed physically on the card if there is a descriptor. And then you do also have sort of the booklet that gives you, I would say, a baseline or a foundation of what these cards are supposed to kind of represent. But with Oracle cards, I think it's really important to also really channel your own gnosis and build upon your own understandings of the card. And I think a great way to do that is in a Google document. Just make some bulletin points and go through each card and talk about really what it means and what it is. This style of deck from Lo Scarabo, like the box itself is really nice. It's fairly sturdy, and a lot of times with these style of Oracle cards, because I do have a few from this publishing house or creator, I tend to actually keep these in the Oracle box that they come in, because I think that the boxes are very well made. And this is a 36 card deck. So if you decide to take the time to venture through the Inferno yourself, I did so in about 2 days, where I am very like neurodivergent, hyperfixation. So if I get interested in something, I go all into it. So I spent about 2 evenings going through all 36 cards and traveling the Inferno. I also listened to a Dante's Inferno playlist while traveling the Inferno, which I think that music is really powerful, and it definitely helped me really work through the Inferno and connect to the magic and the mystery that is available to us witches if we choose to tap into it. And by playing the music and by pulling the cards and by writing my own thoughts and gnosis about them has definitely really solidified this tool in my practice. I might only pull this out during Witches Black Lent. I'm not really sure. I also think that this would be a really great deck to use for inner reflection and shadow work, though I don't necessarily like love that phraseology and what it entails for various reasons. But I do think that it would be a great tool for holding that reflective mirror up to us and it reflecting back our inner torment for us to kind of sort through. And I think that that is very valuable. But I don't see myself necessarily using this deck on like a day-to-day basis or using this for just any client reading. The imagery in this deck is absolutely breathtaking. It very much pulls on your heartstrings, and you can really spend some time looking at the art of the cards and just completely becoming consumed by the energy of all 36. Definitely say it calls you really into the Inferno. I would also say that this deck is not going to be able to perform like a classic Rider-Waite-Smith deck can give you. So if you're used to reading RWS, I think that like this deck might be a little different for you because it's definitely more intuition based, and like while it pulls on the lore and the gnosis of the Inferno, it's also going to require you to connect your own understanding to that gnosis in order to really work with this properly. I would also say that I could see myself using this as like a single card sort of meditation style. And that's kind of what I did when I was traveling the Inferno through working with this deck, is I would pull one card and I would kind of look at the imagery and I would just take a note of what impressions I got from that card, and then I would write about how I felt, and then I would also read what the booklet says. I would kind of see how, you know, both of those interpretations match and like what's different and what's similar, and take note of that. Of course, I'm gonna have to recommend this deck to anyone who is a lover of Dante's Inferno. And I would also say for all of the witches that are participating in this year's Black Lent or any future Witches Black Lent, that you should definitely pick up this Oracle deck, because working through the Inferno, working with sin, working with Dante's Inferno is something that we do in the Witches Black Lent. So this is kind of like what the box looks like. Little ASMR, little nail cam. And I have you on like this gooseneck tripod, so I'm sorry if the camera is kind of shaky. It does come with this booklet here. This is what the back of the cards look like. They're pretty glossy, they're pretty shiny. The first card here is Beasts of the Wild, which depicts a lion, a leopard, and a she-wolf, which apparently these are supposed to be the sins of lust, pride, and avarice. And this card is kind of supposed to signify like something distracting you from a bigger path. Something that I'm curious about that I'm still looking into are these animals here like actually associated with the sins? And like, which one do you think would be avarice and lust out of the lion and the she-wolf and the leopard? And also this kind of looks more like a lynx to me than a leopard, but of the Golden Muse, which this is supposed to be Dante's deceased lover, Beatrice, who persuaded Mary, or some people, you know, think the goddess Diana, to basically take pity on Dante and his plight. And she convinced Virgil to essentially kind of like be his guide and to help him. So this is a card that signifies like not giving in to despair or hopelessness. And it's also a card that signifies like hope and light at the end of the tunnel. It's a card that signifies like your ancestors, your holy guardian angels, if you will, you know, your spirit guides, those that are looking out for you. And funny enough about this card, when I was traveling the Inferno, I actually, so I had the booklet kind of like in my mouth as I was typing. And when I went to go pull the booklet out of my mouth, I actually ripped a chunk of my lip off and bled over the page that the Golden Muse is on. And I just found that kind of humorous because like this is the spirit guide page. And I feel like that was like the deck's way of getting its blood right, if you will. Next here we have the Threshold of Adventure. And this kind of represents like big changes coming your way, a pull between the life that you think you have, your free will, but also destiny or the divine's calling for your life. Very much like big time chariot card sort of energy. This card signifies that like a new door is opening for you and all you need to do is just kind of walk through, that there's not going to be like a perfect time or the right time and order to make this change happen. You just kind of have to jump and have a leap and like take a leap of faith. This one we have Eternal Embrace. These are star-crossed lovers that are executed for their affair, and they're some of the first spirits that Dante comes across. This could be like a person or a cause that you should not waver from, but know that by not wavering from it, you will suffer for it, but suffering for a reason or suffering for a cause. For those of you that are familiar with RWS, this definitely gives me like Hanged Man vibes. This one is the Empress of Desire, which I just think is a absolutely beautiful card. It's the second circle of hell, which is lust, which represents living for yourself first, a lust for life, really enjoying life and following your heart's desire without worry of the judgment of others. This card is also associated with Cleopatra and Helen of Troy. The Judge of Souls, which this is where Dante meets King Minos, the old king of Crete, who commands souls to confess their misdeeds. And a serpent is said to wrap around the soul, and as many times as the serpent wraps around the soul, that is supposed to depict what layer of hell the soul is condemned to. So the deck kind of suggests that this is a time to basically kind of be like more of a king of swords, to think more critically and not allow emotions or empathy to cloud your judgment. This is like a card of logic and sorting and reason. This is the Hounds of the Underworld, which isn't that just cute? Aren't they just adorable? Dante and Virgil meet Cerberus in the layer of hell where the gluttons are punished, and this is supposed to be the third circle of hell, forced to wallow in disgusting smelling mud and struck by hail and terrible rain. They're often attacked by Cerberus, and Cerberus in this deck calls us to look at our three selves, which I really, really liked that. It's about really taking care of your mind, your body, and your spirit, and paying attention to those three heads and which one needs fed in order to avoid the attack of Cerberus. Have Rolling Torment, which are two spirits that I'm going to kind of skip ahead from my notes here. I know that some of you might be interested in sort of hearing what I have to say, but I also know that some of you just want to see the art of these cards. So if you're interested in like looking over my notes, feel free to look down below. hope that you enjoyed this flip through of the Dante's Inferno Oracle. I hope that all of you are having a blessed Black Lent, and until next time, blessed be, and I will see you in hell. Or maybe the Inferno.